I'm quite sure that my colleagues on this side of the dais share that point of view. In fact, I'm quite confident that my colleagues on the other side of the dais do as well. Ms. Owens, let me begin with you if I can. I think it's fair to say that you didn't start off on the conservative side of the ledger. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was a liberal.
Okay. And so just on a couple of issues, and you mentioned them in your statement, but just to go back to them, if you could tell us again kind of what they are and what hatred that you've experienced as a result of having this point of view. You mentioned the term Blexit. Would you describe what that is and what hate that you've experienced as a result of your position on that?
I launched a movement called Blexit, which is the black exit from the Democrat Party. When I became educated about the issues and stopped reacting emotionally, which is what the left wants us to do, presumably, when they hold up pictures of burning churches, I began to examine the facts and look at some of the narratives they were spinning. For example, in 2016, it was police brutality, and I realized that they are dissuading us against our own best interests. And I wanted to have a more productive dialogue with the black community about the issues that are actually affecting us and impacting us. When I announced that I was a conservative, I've never seen anything more racist, more disgusting, more vitriolic, and more hate that's come my way in my entire life than the things that Democrats and the media say about me today. I've been referred to as an Uncle Tom, a bed wench. For those of you that don't know, that means a slave that sleeps with the master, a house nigger. And these are all words that have been said over and over again about black conservatives when they have the audacity to think for themselves and become educated about our history and the myth of things like the Southern switch and the Southern strategy, which never happened.
You mentioned, I think, on, well, let me ask you this. I think you did, on the life issue, you're pro-life. Is that accurate? And
that's correct, and I started off pro-choice.
And what sort of hatred, if any, have you experienced, or do you get?
Well, that hate tends to come majority from Caucasian Democrats. When I start telling the truth about the fact that the community that is the most impacted by abortion is the black community. 800 to 900 black babies are aborted every single day. That amounts to about 18 million black babies aborted since 1973. And the black population has stagnated. Our population growth has stagnated completely. These are the kinds of logical discussions that I've had that have earned me all the titles that we discussed before.
I've got a whole bunch more questions, but thank you for your time. I'd like to turn to Mr. Klein, if I could, for a couple minutes. Mr. Klein, when you were giving your opening statement, you got interrupted. What were you going to say? And I'm not blaming the chair because it was overtime. There were several witnesses that did that, and I get it. It's tough being chair sometimes. But what were you going to say? What was your point?
I was going to make two.
If you could turn the mic on there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Thank
all right.
you. I was going to make two important points. That it was very painful to me that in light of the vicious anti-Semitic remarks made by Representative Omar and others, that no one in that party, many in that party defended her, saying she's not an anti-Semite, and there was no consequences. She was not thrown off of any committee, as Stephen King was for his outrageous remarks. And I was going to simply end by saying we need to investigate the Students for Justice in Palestine and BDS terror connections. We need to demand university leaders, very important, condemn SJP hate groups by name. They won't condemn them by name. They just say we're against anti-Semitism. We must demand colleges must suspend and expel students who commit these terrible actions against Jewish people, and that Title VI should be invoked, and they should lose federal funding if they don't do the right thing when it comes to anti-Semitic bigotry. And finally, we should be having consequences for members of Congress who make hateful and outrageous comments against blacks, Muslims, or Jews. And when it comes to Jews, we have not seen that.
Are there any, you mentioned members of Congress. There's a former member of Congress, I understand, that made a comment about Prime Minister Netanyahu recently. Are you familiar with that, and what is your understanding and what's your concern about that comment?
Well, that was Beto O'Rourke, who I believe you're referring to, who called Benjamin Netanyahu a racist. Nothing could be more absurd than that. He was involved in helping Ethiopian Jews, black Jews, come to Israel. He's actually had the most positive policies toward the Israeli Arabs of any prime minister we've ever had. So this is a ridiculous statement. Also, I might add, Benjamin Netanyahu has not built a single new community in Judea and Samaria since he's been prime minister. None. So it's not like he's even building all over the place, which is attributed to him regularly. So this comment was just really outrageous and despicable, and I think it should almost disqualify him for a higher office. Work.
Thank you very much.